So, is there anything you want to talk about? Yes.
Can we talk about integrity and what it means to have it?
Probably not. Integrity and what it means to have it. Okay, that's one question. Anyone else? Wolf?
Well, it was my question last week. I was curious if you've ever been accused of being psychic.
Like you were accused of being psychic?
No, if you've ever been accused of being psychic.
No. I'm kind of mediocre in all aspects of life. Anyone else? Okay, let's talk about integrity for a minute and hopefully some questions will come up. So let me put the question in two different containers. It's such a difficult question, and I'm in such a foul mood. So let me, if I can, tackle the question in three different ways. The first, some of you may have heard already, maybe on YouTube. At different stages of life, we see ourselves differently. We see our desires differently. When, for example, you're 18, and you go to a party and you see a young, attractive woman, assuming that you are a heterosexual man. Good morning, Abi. How are you? And you see someone out there attractive, naturally you gravitate towards them. And you say hello and how are you, all that political nonsense. And your main goal really is to find a way to bed them, to take them to your house. And you want to be true to your passion. You're attractive, you have this gut feeling that she's like your soulmate. And then your relationship, of course, initially is founded on sex. Eventually, because we are emotional entities, feelings and emotions grow out of that. And it's no longer about sex. Now you really just want to be around her. And then at a certain point, you say to yourself, should I tell her now or should I wait? I'm a bit nervous. Eventually, you look at her and you say, I love you. Again, you want to be true to your passion, to yourself, be honest and all that. Time passes, and as Sartre would say, the boredom has always lived inside you as an infant. All of a sudden, boredom rushes into you and out of you, and you look at your life, specifically your companion, you realize she's no longer doing it for you. Her body is no longer interesting. Her mind is no longer interesting. Her emotions are no longer interesting. And all of a sudden, you begin to feel a sense of shift inside you, and you want to be true to that. You try to have a conversation with her, and you want the conversation to be somewhat meaningful. Remember, initially, the only thing that was meaningful for you was sex. That defined who you are, what you are. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You try to be true to that. It changed. Now you want to be true to another gut feeling, which is, I hate her. And every time I see her, I hate myself. So now you're looking for meaning. Can't be found. And so through a good amount of struggle, you tell her, I want out. It's not you, it's me, you say. I'm the crummy one. You're an angel. And so she says, okay. Then you go around looking for meaning in people, and then you find one. Let's just say her name is, I don't know, Claire. Not Claire, Claire. And then you guys sit and have beautiful conversations. And after that, then you have sex. First it's sex, then conversation, where you realize it goes nowhere. This time you have conversation, then you have sex. And the conversation makes sex even more meaningful, more passionate. Because your foundation is a bit stronger. Then at a certain point you look at Claire and you say, you want to get married? She says, no. I'm a free-spirited woman. Whatever that may mean. Remember, integrity first revolved around sex. Then it revolved around meaning. Now, you want a bona fide relationship. You want to respect where you are in life. And you want to honor it, which is you're ready for marriage. She says no, and then you have to figure out, do you want to wait, do you want to leave? That depends on your relationship with time. All that. You walk away. You recover after a few years and you go out on various datings. And because you're a great looking man, everybody wants to have sex with you, but they say, no, I'm a man full of integrity. And I'm in desperate need for meaning and depth. No sex. Let's have a conversation. You have a conversation, it's okay. Then you look at this person and say, are you ready for marriage? He says, well, can't we at least have sex? No. First marriage, then sex. And all of a sudden there is a shift. Let's just say you find someone, you get married. You look at this woman and you say, I'm ready to be a father. And the point I'm trying to make at different stages of your life, you hear different voices. And all those different voices create inside you different desires, different intentions. And the things that used to give you meaning, passion, identity, purpose, they no longer apply. And funny thing, as a man, of course, all of us being wanderers, is that there comes a point where you say, I don't want sex. I don't want marriage. I don't want fatherhood. I want to find my little cave and just go in there and do whatever. All of us in this class fall into the story of the prodigal son. You think you know, you follow your assumptions. Life teaches you someone, sometimes in a very, very cruel way, that you are in fact an infant in thinking, in feeling, and in acting. In the ancient Greek world, there is a horse that they have, it's called Pegasus. It's like us. You walk around, and walking is easy. You know, you walk around, you say, where is G266? And Shaman will show you. All the signposts are there. You don't have to think. Society will tell you who you are, and what you ought to be. And let's just create a scenario. Your father gets really, really sick, and then slowly you watch him get sicker and eventually die. This is what they call a gadfly. It can come in the form of Socrates. It can come in the form of going to church and having an inspiring, pastor giving you a riveting sermon. Or it can be an illness of sorts. When this particular pain hits you, you come up here and you look at your life down here, and almost everything that you have touched becomes meaningless. You're embarrassed because you've wasted time. You're filled with shame and guilt and remorse. And somehow you want to make it up, but you can't. Now, luckily for you and I, this awareness that does create inside us a good amount of pain, a good pain, that allows us to examine, to observe, perhaps to revise some of our, maybe the way we think and feel about things. Luckily for us, we are very forgetful. You wash the corpse of your father, you bury him in his grave, you go to the cemetery once every other day, then after a while the politics of life enter, and then you go to the cemetery once every week, then once every month, and once every year. And your questions become simple now. And you go back to being who we've always been. But pain gives you wings. You fly away from your life and everybody else's life, really. You look down and you see life to be profoundly small. And you begin to ask yourself some questions. If you've ever been on a plane, when you look down, you say, really? All those people down there taking their life so seriously? So ridiculous. Now, the truth is, we can't stay way up there for too long. Now, remember, the questions elevate your soul, elevate your social status, elevate your mental status. You are something you never expected yourself to be. You're no longer walking, you're flying. And as a result, you see things differently. You see time big, you see physical life small. It's something that happens to all of us when we age. And that's why you will never, ever have social justice. Never in a million years. Because people exist at different stages of their own growth and maturity and evolution. I'm 60, so when you tell me I want to get an A in this class, I say, how stupid. You should have said, I really want to understand the material. But there is no way I can change your view about that, because you are 18. You want to prove to the world that there is something special about you. Now, for the first time, you have seen your wings, you have felt your wings, and it feels good. There's a good amount of pain. When you come to realize you married for the wrong reason, you had kids for the wrong reason, you went to school for the wrong reason, you lived for the wrong reasons. You understand, you see a good amount of things, but just because you see it doesn't mean it feels good. There is some sort of liberation, freedom. There's clarity that you now possess, but it is so painful. And you will want to go back. Kind of like what Morpheus offers Neo in the movie The Matrix. When Neo understands a bit too much, at this stage he's still Thomas A. Anderson. He says, listen, I'll give you 2 pills. Pick one. You can take the blue pill or you can take the red pill. The blue pill is, you've always lived with some assumptions about yourself, about life, about other people, that you think you understand. There are moments where you take the red pill. You have moments of awareness that everything you've done is just stupid. And ultimately, the student has to make the decision. No teacher can ever force a student to grow. And in Thomas Anderson's case, he takes the red pill because he just has come to understand the matrix is this, what the Hindus would call a place of samsara. It's just a place that creates desires, you pursue them, they disappoint you, then you suffer. Should you be consumed by this pain and never let it go, you keep flying higher and higher and higher. You're in touch with something. I'm not quite sure what that is. You have this intense distaste for physical life down here. Sex is not fun. Conversation is not fun. Going to school is not fun. Working for Home Depot is no longer fun. And you understand why they're not fun. It's what Karl Marx would to say, that, you're a natural self. You play with yourself. It's natural. When you're no longer hungry, you say, I no longer want any food. And you will not allow boredom to distract you and push you towards eating. You stop when it's necessary. At a certain point, something about us goes wrong because of society, maybe because of just the way we are wired, that you lose certain core aspects of who and what you are. You become an alienated self. You lose yourself. And you assume that, yes, you're fighting a good fight. You have integrity. I had a student or a friend a long time ago. She had come to the house because she was going through a breakup. And slowly she became exposed to certain ideas. She was like studying economics or some ridiculous field. If we don't approach it the right way, almost everything is ridiculous. And then she went to Los Angeles, I think, just to visit some friends, and she used to jog. And she calls me one day while in Los Angeles, taking a break from life. At a certain point, she stops jogging, and then she sobs. And she sits in the middle of the ground, and she's just crying. And she calls me and she says, I have no idea who I am and what I'm doing, but it's far too painful. It was far too painful for her to kind of just live with this realization. Eventually, she stopped coming to the house. Eventually, she stopped contacting. She disappeared. And she's back in life. The point ultimately I'm trying to make is integrity changes as you change. If you were to ask me, how do I find an integrity that remains fixed? I only know one path, which is come to this class, come to my other classes. Let me give you audios, let me give you videos, books to read. Get rid of your friends. I'll give you brand new friends. Stay with them for a while. Change your major to philosophy. But you need to know that philosophy is an outcome of sociology, outcome of psychology, outcome of history. So you need to really know everything about everything as best as you can. And once that passion has become part of you, it's what we call Hephaestus. Hephaestus is a Greek god. He's a welder. He welds love to you, but not eros, not the sort of love that's you have fun for 5, 10, 20 minutes and then it disappears. It's the sort of love you can't get rid of. And then wisdom. And once Hephaestus welds those components to you, you are fixed for life. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't mean you won't fall. It doesn't mean that you won't sin. You will do all of them. But your recovery period is about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. There was a guy, some of you in this class may be interested. Abraham Maslow was, his parents were Jew. He was a Jew. They came from Russia. He was a psychologist, a really, really good one. He had a very, very tough life. For about 3-4 years, his main research had to do with sex and dominance. And there came a point where he was so popular in Brooklyn College and that he would invite students to his house. And these are Jewish people, Jewish young adults who had never had sex. They would never talk about sex because it was a taboo in their community. And one of the things that Maslow talked to them about was the immensity of this force that lives inside all of us. And his remedy was the following. We don't have to have sex before marriage. that goes against the commandments. But what you can do is you can masturbate. And students were initially shocked. But what he was saying is, there is this tension that lives inside you. Understand the tension. Understand its causes. Understand why it's there. And then have enough decency to know how you can take care of it without sinning too much. And that understanding creates for you a good amount of honesty and integrity. You will do it. You may feel bad, but the feeling of bad that lives inside you will last for no more than maybe 10 minutes. If on the other hand, you're just this devout Christian with zero understanding, but lots of passion, crazy passion with zero understanding, just in case you fall, you will beat yourself for the rest of your life because you masturbated. Yeah, anyways, so good luck with all of that. There was once a complaint about the way I teach, so I had to go to the district. And the first thing that this guy said to me was, "You have a student in one of your classes." I said, "No, I have someone who enrolled in a class. That doesn't make him or her a student." You know, I look at my classes, I look at the people, and I said, "No, you're just enrolled. You're not yet a student. You may be a student after a grade, but certainly not after wisdom, not after love, not after philosophy." And so you may define integrity by pursuing an A. I define it differently. So for the most part, it really depends on who is defining words for you. به می سجاده رنگین کن گرد پیر مغان گوید که سالک با خبر نبود ز راه و رسم منزل ها. Let's say you come to me and you say, "Amir, I really want to do philosophy. I love Plato." I said, "Really? Yeah." It's okay, bring the book. Dialogues of Plato. I've been reading since I was 2. I have all these notes in the book. You bring the book, we go outside, I give you a lighter and I say, "Burn it." But I have a 20-year relationship with this book. Not anymore. And the point is, to move up, you have to get rid of all the things that were behind you. What defined honesty, sincerity, integrity when you were 5 is going to be very different when you're 25. Certainly much more different when you're 55. And if you look at integrity as an art, like any other art, it's going to take you a long time to become proficient in it. Because integrity is a concept. Behind it lives a world of ideas and emotions. Anyone else before we, Andrew?
Talk about the elevated moments being so fleeting and language being inadequate to kind of capture those moments.
First of all, there is only so much our body can handle. You can only handle so much intensity before your own body shuts down. It shuts down by finding distraction, by finding other pleasures, by becoming forgetful, by becoming so exhausted that you just go to bed and sleep. Okay. There are moments of intense experiences where the only thing that you really want to do is remain very, very quiet. Silence is a virtue. That you have come to understand there are certain experiences that just don't fit life, don't fit language, don't fit the human intellect. There was a guy around, I think, the 15th or 14th century, St. Thomas Aquinas, from whom we get all Christian theology. He is awesome in the Christian world. Just before, and he wrote so many things about Christianity, about its doctrines, about Jesus Christ, about the church. Around the age 49, if I'm not mistaken, he had this experience experience. You know, it's like you got married and it was an arranged marriage. You've never loved your wife, but you've always respected her and you've liked her and you've always appreciated what she's done for you and your family. And you could say borderline love. And then you go to Pete's Coffee. And it doesn't take very much. You know, your wife, it took you about maybe 5 or 10 years to kind of just get used to her ways, to understand her, to know what areas of her psyche you can travel and what areas you just need to stay away from. And you go to Pete's Coffee, you look at this person, and within like a 5-minute time period, you just find yourself completely consumed. Okay. So Thomas Aquinas was one of those theologians who was profoundly intellectual. He would sit, observe, write, think. Then about 49, he discovered his soul. He experienced his soul leaving his body. And then he came back down. It didn't take very much time, maybe a nanosecond. And when he became aware of the experience and now being imprisoned by his physical body, he went out to churches and gave this beautiful sermon that everything I've written, everything I've ever said, everything I've ever thought about, all wrong. The Christian spirit needs to be experienced but can't be expressed. It's a very kind of ridiculous attempt by all of us to try to explain things that are just greater than language and the human intellect. There was a guy, Aldous Huxley. He loved drugs for a while, but he also loved reading. He read and read and read and read. And he said, I've read so much and I understand so much, but I've read so much that I no longer can feel anything. I want to feel now. I want to feel what lives inside these words and these ideas. And he tried all sorts of things. Eventually he did LSD, LSD and other drugs. And man, he had these beautiful experiences. So he would go around town and say, why do you guys sit and read? Why do you meditate? Why do you make observations of this and that? Just go somewhere, go to Berkeley or East Oakland, grab some LSD, and do the drugs. You'll have this opening, and then you will understand the meaning of life. But he realized that just because you have an experience, it doesn't mean that you know how to cope with the disasters of life. And then he retracted. He said, you know what, experience is good, but the truth is, if you want to live a relatively decent life, you need to understand it. Just because you have an experience, it doesn't mean anything. When you become really, really proficient, in other words, speaking or writing is very much like an infant trying to roll, an infant trying to sit up, an infant or a child trying to stand up and then walk and then run, until they become very, very proficient. Language is limited in a variety of different ways, but you can become really good at it. You can become good at it for yourself, but not so much for other people. Because every single person in this room, what happens is I say something, for example, you take that word or that concept, you kind of push it back into your history. And then that history has defined words, that defined life in a certain way. And then you project your own definition. And it's no longer what I'm saying that you understand. You're only trying to apply your information, your past, your history. You color the language with your own experience. That's why it's so difficult to kind of create students and have students unless they become completely blank slated. But there is a point in your life, you just feel too much. And it's best to keep your mouth shut, because the moment you try to put your feelings to language, you just fumble all over the place. And then other people look at you and say, man, why is she talking? And then all of a sudden, other people have power over you. Their judgments mean a great amount of deal for you. And then your value slowly depreciates. So if you are at a certain stage where you know that you're going to fumble quite a bit, just remain quiet. Anyone else? I don't prepare for my classes. I just come and wing it. Without questions, I don't really talk. So just in case, yeah.
So you say in order to communicate, it's best for two people to communicate clearly, it's best for them to start as a blank slate so that they can be taught the way that you understand, or so that they can have a more common language.
No.
No.
If I was to go back and borrow from some of the research conclusions of my friend Abraham Maslow, I would say the following. He looked at mice and realized that mice only eats carrots, for example. He looked at monkeys and realized that, monkeys like carrots, but they also like bananas. Their palate is a bit more complicated than rats. Then he looked at human beings and realized, oh my God, this is like an eternal complexity. They like everything and anything. They can eat rocks. And so you realize food for all these different animals are different. Their palates are different. So if, for example, a rat was to go to a mouse and say, oh, by the way, have you eaten, cauliflower? Mouse will say, I have no idea what you're talking about. The same applies to human beings. You have a human being who lives in the iron stage. And by iron, I mean physical passions. And this is the Freudian id. In other words, these are things you pursue and you want results very, very, very quickly. You have no patience. You can't wait. You will be aggressive. You'll be dominating. But this is all connected to your physical body. Okay? Just in case there's a good amount of pain inside you and you have no idea what to do with it, well, you drink it away. Just in case you don't drink, you smoke it away. And the pain can be simple, like you're 15, confusion is part of being a 15-year-old kid. You live in a culture that says you should never be confused, you should have it all together, inwardly stable. And the culture puts too much stress on you, you start drinking or smoking, okay? If that doesn't work, you do lots of sex or you watch porn. And whatever questions, whatever confusions that live down here in the iron stage, you will find ways to get rid of them very, very quickly. Now, if, for example, you and I were to sit and talk about, say, pain and how you get rid of it, if you come to my office and you tell me, Amir, I'm in a lot of pain, but you're down here, and I give you a book, and you say to me, what am I supposed to do with this book? Well, read it. What for? What? Because it talks about the stuff you're dealing with. Yeah, I don't really feel like it. Do you have weed? And I say, no, I don't. Okay? So those who live in this particular place have specific set of desires, wants, and needs. That creates a very specific language. It contains iron components. Then you have bronze. Okay. Bronze refers to the abdomen. It's a place of power. You want to go to school. You want to save your money. You want to spend your money on perhaps buying a car. Maybe renting a place just for you. No longer having roommates. Buying clothes. Taking care of your family. Okay? And what you realize is that when someone says, what is pleasure for you? Down here, someone says, oh man, partying, drinking, smoking, and having sex. When someone asks you, what do you find pleasurable? You say, going to school, being a bit more responsible, not using a lot of profanities anymore. And so if down here, for example, you have 50 friends, and remember, we are social animals because we want to see our own reflection in other people. I don't want to smoke alone. I want to smoke with a friend.